Hi everyone, it's Talia from Zart Art, and today we're going to be creating a neurographic artwork exploring chalk pastels. To begin our artwork, we're going to explore some abstract shapes and lines before diving into our Georgia O'Keeffe inspired work. So we're going to be working with a neurographic art style with our chalk pastels. Here is an example of neurographic art. So in my example, we are taking a bit of a mindfulness approach with this project. So neurographic art is a simple way to link the subconscious mind to your drawing. So as we're drawing, we're making some wavy, curved lines, focusing on our breathing, focusing on any issues we have if you want to take a mindfulness approach, and kind of letting it out and just being in the moment and letting your hand do the work and your brain just relax and not really think about anything that's worrying you. So for our neurographic artwork, what we're going to do is start with a black marker. So we're going to start by drawing our lines. And again, if you want to take on that mindfulness approach, you can think about a problem or an issue you're having, and as you breathe, you can draw and kind of release some of that tension and some of that worry. So drawing over the page, you don't have to think too much about where your lines are going. They can intersect, they can overlap, they can come off the page as well. So I'm just going to draw a few lines over my page. There's no right or wrong, but just be in the moment. Don't think about anything being perfect. And if you want to take that mindfulness view, have a think about things that are relaxing, calming, and just let your problems drift away. Okay, so now we've got our lines on the page, so we've got quite a few lines that are intersecting. Now what we're going to do, the next part of this process, is just to join up some of those shapes. So where we've got our intersections, we're just going to go back over with our black marker and round those off. So this will create some new shapes, and this is quite a relaxing process where we're just going back over what we've already drawn and just altering those shapes a bit so everything connects nicely, and there's a really interesting flow to the work once we've joined up all of these shapes and all of these areas. Just going all the way back through your work, we'll just round off some of those edges. Okay, so now I've joined up all of my lines, so you can see there's a really nice flow to the work. You can see some of those shapes have been accentuated. We've rounded off those lines and you can see where everything intersects, which is quite nice. Now what we're going to do is add colour. And we're going to explore using chalk pastels with a bit of a watercolour effect, which will come out quite nicely with this abstracted work. You can use any kind of material that you want to use. You can use watercolour pencils, just plain pencils, markers, whatever you have available, but we're going to experiment with chalk pastel as a watercolour. So again, depending on your work, how you're feeling, you might want to stick to cooler colours if you want to be relaxed and calm. If you're feeling happy and vibrant, you might want to do warm colours. Let's do some warm colours because we are happy today. So we're going to use some warm colours, and again you can choose to colour in your whole piece. You can leave some pieces of your overall composition blank. So I'm going to fill in mostly these middle sections and leave some sections white. So applying the chalk pastel as you normally would, if you were just doing a chalk pastel drawing. I'm going to use a few different colors in the one area so we can blend them together with that watercolor effect. It will look quite nice. So don't be afraid to use several different shades in the one area because they will blend together really nicely. And now with just a pot of water and a brush, you don't want a brush that's going to be too big because we do want to control where we are blending the pigment. So I usually start with my lighter color or my lighter tone and then spread that out. So if you start with your darker tone, then that can tend to overtake the rest of the work and then you just see that darker color. So you can see that that is blending quite nicely and we have a watercolor effect. You might have a little bit of residue from that chalk pastel, so you can blend that in if you want to get a bit more of an intense color, or you can remove that extra pigment if it is getting in your way. So I've got a little bit too much there. So either having a piece of newspaper next to you that you can just get rid of some of that extra pigment or blow it away. Just be aware of people around you because it can be quite dusty if you have a lot of chalk pastel around. But you can see that I've blended those colors nicely together and that's covered the whole piece. And what's really nice about working with chalk pastel as a watercolor is that you can go back over the chalk pastel once it has dried and blend it in further. So if you have some areas that aren't covered much with that pigment, so you might have some little gaps in there, you can go back over with your chalk pastel and even blend it with your finger. So once that dries, then you can work back over the top of it like you would with a normal chalk pastel. And what's good about that is that there's slightly less residue. Yes, it is still smudgy, but you don't have to use fixative on it, especially if you're not really working back over the top of it, because that use of water just helps blend those extra bits of pigment into the paper. So what I'm going to do is work over my whole sheet, adding in color, using some of those warmer tones, and then we can go from there. Okay, so now I've finished adding color to my work, and as you can see, I've left some parts bare, which you can do. Now, chalk pastel is renowned for smudging, so you might want to just remove some of those fingerprints or dust marks from around that area. So I'm just going to work back over and remove those. Now, some of my chalk pastel has dried a bit already, and if you want to clean up some of those black lines, then you can go over those with an eraser as well. But if you don't mind it looking a little bit smudgy over the black, then you can leave leave it. Again, this work is not about being perfect, it's more about the experience, being in the moment, feeling a bit more relaxed than you were perhaps before you started it. But I'm just going to clean up some of that and then we can have a look at our finished piece. Okay, so now I've finished my neurographic artwork. As you can see, it's a really fun abstract work where you can focus on line and shape and also relate it to color and emotion if you wanted to as well. Of course, you can go larger scale like this A3 piece, or you can go even bigger. That can be a really fun experience too, to create some larger artworks. But we've had a bit of an experiment with that chalk, pastel and watercolor effect, which can create really interesting color blends. And again, you can work back over the top with some more chalk pastel if you wanted to create some more blending as well. But otherwise, this can be a nice mindfulness activity to introduce to your class, and you can use this activity to lead on to more abstracted artworks. But I hope you enjoyed this video and I look forward to seeing you next time.